Montel across America.
Recently in your blog this week, you went off a little bit about the situation with GM, and in one statement kind of said commingling public control to private businesses is known as fascism. And I know it's crazy that you come on and I hit you with the biggest one at the top, but could you talk about what you mean by that?
Well, fascism is, in an economic sense, a combination of government and big business. And I a lot of time will refer to it as corporatism or, crony capitalism, but it's not free market capitalism. And I really don't like it when we get into trouble like we're into right now and blaming free markets for it. But we've been doing this for a long time. Most people understand when you talk about the military-industrial complex how big government subsidizes big corporations. So that's what I'm talking about. But technically in economics, they call that a form of fascism.
And right now, what do you think about what's going on? I mean, the president this morning or late last night talked about the fact that the stimulus package, in some ways, some of it's already come back. Let me play this little piece. Listen to this.
Several financial institutions are set to pay back $68 billion to taxpayers. It's worth noting that in the first round of repayments from these companies, the government has actually turned a profit. This is not a sign that our troubles are over, far from it, but it is a positive sign. As this money is returned, we'll see our national debt lessened by $68 billion.
Now, of course, we have to understand that national debt. I mean, we're just in debt with this stimulus package of about $1.4 trillion. So $68 billion is a little dent, but a very, very tiny dent. But at the same time, Congressman, the fact that businesses are going to start paying this back and the government's going to make a profit, is it not a good idea for a real quick, short investment to make a little bit of money off of it?
Well,
it's like a loan shark.
When you look behind the numbers, you'll find out they're not, in the true sense of the word, profit. It's not like you're going on and investing in a good car company and making a good product and making profits. This is quite a bit different. And
it's like interest on our money, but we're going to get interest back on our cash.
Yeah, and like you point out, it's very small. But what most people never think about is what would have happened if we wouldn't have done it. Where would that $1 trillion have gone? So if you look at the whole investment, it's very, very minor so-called profit. But you might ask, where would the money go if the people were allowed to allocate it and we didn't have the government allocating the capital? Well, it might have gone to an honest bankruptcy. Maybe General Motors would have been bankrupt a year ago, and the good assets would have been bought up, and a new company would have been started, and there would have been productive jobs and a sound footing. But this way, you don't know what we missed out on because we have the government spending the money. But I think there's a bit of fiction behind some of those figures.
All right, but here we are. We're sitting where we are right this minute. It is, June 10th. 2009, and water has passed under this bridge. What do we do? Where do we go from here? I mean, I think one of the things, and you pointed out in your blog, and I thought it was really, really pointed, and that's the fact that we've been involved in Amtrak for over 40 years, and Amtrak is a losing proposition, and until it's brought back into a system where it's privately owned, I don't think we'll see a profit. So, do you think that that's what we're in store for when it comes to the gym?
Sure, that's what will happen. And if you do like markets and free markets, one ought to be very frustrated because we're moving in the wrong direction. The government's buying up more and more stuff and that means it'll become less efficient. I mean, we've had experience in the 20th century where governments had absolute total control of companies and products, and it was a disaster. Even the railroads, a lot of people ride them and a lot of people enjoy them, but they're highly subsidized by the people who don't ride them, and they lose money all the time. And that's probably what will happen. It's going to be artificial. It's not a true market economy, and I just think that it's the absolute wrong direction. And I think what will happen is we've dug a hole for ourselves, and we keep digging, and everything we do, the hole just gets bigger.
Well, now the president also said yesterday that he wants to try to reinstate the pay-as-you-go plan, which would be a way to stop the bleeding. Listen to this.
One important step we can and must take is restoring the so-called pay-as-you-go rule, or pay-go. The pay-as-you-go rule is very simple. Congress can only spend $1 if it saves $1 elsewhere.
What do you think about that?
Well, I think that's a good idea. I hope he's serious. But when he has talked about the budget before, he talks about being concerned about inflation and debt in 2, 3, 4, 5 years from now if you do it immediately. And he has as much clout or more than the Congress has. So if we don't pay for the bills, just veto the bill. And when we had a good conservative, so-called conservative in office, who was supposed to be doing this, he never vetoed one bill.
Gotcha.
So I'm not so sure that if there's money coming down the track and it's for unemployment benefits and food stamps, there's going to be any vetoes. It's the politics is just not there. So it's good talk, and they have to do it in order to try to calm the troops. But I don't think there's any serious effort. Matter of fact, I've talked about that for many years. There are some domestic programs that aren't strictly my cup of tea or constitutional, but I wouldn't cut them off at the knees. But I would always pay for it. We had a bill yesterday that was a half-decent bill, and it wasn't all that expensive, and they wanted to know why I was voting against it. And I said, well, if you'd cut out a B-1 bomber or something like that and pay for it and save a couple of dollars, I'd be glad to, work in a transition like that. But when it's add on, finally we'll have a financial crisis, and the one that we're having right now is just the beginning of what will come if we continue to do this. So what Obama is saying is very good, but how many people in this country are going to believe it? It's sort of like Geithner going to China and say, we're going to balance the budget soon and get a house in order. And what do those young Chinese people do? They laugh at us.
Right.
And I think the American people are laughing when they say, all right, we're going to have pay-go next month. Sure. I don't think anybody believes it.
Well, but now, what if now the rest of the Congress got behind it and said, okay, let's do it. That's what you claim you're going to do, sir. Then put up and shut up. And then would not the pressure be enough to maybe see if we could at least do it a little bit?
Not likely, but then there'd be the second argument. I'm all for pay-go, but I described mine. That is, cut someplace else, cut enough where you can cut the deficit, and deal with our problems here at home. But half the people who want pay-go want higher taxes. I'm sure that's what's in Obama's mind. Well, we're going to find a way to squeeze more money out of the system, a system that's crumbling, that's very weak. I mean, you can't tax it anymore. But if those who want pay-go want to raise taxes in order to pay for everything, that won't work. From my viewpoint, I think the only way you can pay for things is to cut things out that we don't need. And, of course, you've heard me talk about all the foreign expenditures that we should work on because that should be the easiest place to cut.
Montel across America.